Hello, Pilco, ¿escucha? No, por el micrófono rojo. ¿Por el micrófono rojo? Oh, ok.
Treasures Training. It is a privilege and honor to have you here. And also, we want to welcome those who are watching us online. Thank you for all you do for God's church. Thank you for your dedication and also for the time that you invested in God's church. We know that the Lord is blessing you because you're working for His church. And we want to let you know that we are recording this training. In case that you want to review a letter, it's going to be in our website under the Treasury Department. And also all the materials that we're going to present are going to be also in the website. Also, we have two special invitees this morning with us. We have two ladies that are coming from Adventist Risk Management. We have Sister Bianca Medanat and Sister Rocio Roberts. And they are the account executive from Adventist Risk Management. I'm going to ask them if they can please stand. You can welcome them. Sister Roberts, she is our representative. She's our new representative that covers the Columbia Union Conference. And also we have Pastor George Agüero, who is the president of the New Jersey Conference with us. Thank you, Pastor Agüero. I know that you know him, right? So thank you, Pastor, for being with us. And also we have Pastor Etienne. I don't know where is Pastor Etienne. Pastor Etienne is our Health Ministries, Stewardship Ministries, and also our and Sabbath School Director of the New Jersey Conference, and family too. Yes, only one big check, yes. And also we have Brother Pilko, who is the New Jersey Conference video production manager, and Brother Winston, who is helping us with the camera. Thank you for being with us. Now I would like to introduce our treasury team. I know that probably you know most of them. My name is Carlos Portanova, and I'm currently the conference treasurer, and it's an honor and a privilege to serve you in this capacity. And also we have Sister Aldith Holofernes. She is our assistant treasurer. I don't know where is Aldith. Can you please stand? She has many responsibilities, but one of her responsibilities is to help you with the youth support and training. And also we have Brother Edwin Rivera. He is our senior accountant, and he helps us with remittances, properties, and also he helps us with youth support and training. I don't know that you know him. Where is Edwin? Is Edwin here? Amen. He's in the back. And also, will you please come to the front, the treasury team, please? And also we have Sister Amalia Agüero. She's also our senior accountant, and she helps us with the short insurance claims, payroll, and billing. Also we have Brother Edgar Flores. He is helping us with registration at this moment, and he is one of our accountants, and he helps us with payroll and accounts payables. And also we have Sister Rachel Linares. How many of you know her? Yeah, the boys, and also she sent letters, right? She is our church auditor, plan giving and total services assistant, and also she's in charge of the youth support and training. And we have Sister Heather G. is our part-time church auditor, but she's not with us at this moment. So this is our treasury team. And we are here to serve you. If you have any questions or you need any kind of training, please, you can call us or you can send to us an email. You can see on the screen the phone numbers and also the email addresses. And now we have the opening prayer by Sister Aldith Holofernes.
Shall we all stand? Let's bow our heads for prayer. Our most gracious and kind Heavenly Father, we thank Thee, dear Lord, for this beautiful Sunday morning. Thank You for giving us the sun that shines so brightly. We ask that Thou will guide us, Lord, as we begin our session this morning, that we may have a fruitful gathering. Bless us, dear Lord, and strengthen our band as co-laborers in your vineyard, waiting for your soon return. Forgive us for our sins. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Sister Aldit. And also, we have some pastors with us. I forgot about the pastors. Will you please, pastors, can you please stand? And they can see you. Pastor Gonzalez, Pastor Marsky, Pastor Jerome. Also, we have, I forgot the name. Juliana Marson, Jardiniano. And thank you for being with us also in this training. And now it's time for the devotional. We're going to ask Pastor Agüero. Pastor Agüero, the time is yours.
Good morning and happy Sunday. Hey, happy Sunday. Let me see. Okay, thank you, Pastor Portanova, and your team for your wonderful job in the New Jersey Conference. Be also for this training, to prepare this training for our treasurers. As he said, we are so thankful for all of you working for the Lord. And we cannot pay you. Well, you can ask money to him, but he's going to say no anyway. But the Lord is the person to give us his blessings when we are serving to him, okay? The Lord has been blessed in the New Jersey Conference for the last 129. We have been baptizing every single Sabbath. And this is a blessing. A record for me, a record not only in the New Jersey Conference, in the North American Division. The COVID never stopped the mission in New Jersey Conference. And yesterday, well, we just accomplished 129. And you can see some of the pictures. Okay, and you are going to also, maybe Pastor Portanova is going to mention that the Lord blessed us last year in tithe and offerings in the New Jersey Conference. We set up a record last year also. And the Lord has been blessing the members because it's not the money directly. The money comes from you. That means the Lord has blessed you, and you are just giving, sharing the blessings, and returning to the tithe to the Lord. And this is a blessing. Okay, today my topic is first things first. I'm going to put some in Spanish. You can read. I'm not going to repeat in Spanish because we need to save time. Okay? Why we are saying first things first? What is first in your life? What is first in your life? Depends what is your priority in your life. Whatever is your priority is going to be first in your life. And give me, last week, yes, I think last week we were talking about priority in the Sabbath school lesson. One of the days was talking about the priorities. What is your priority? We need to set up some priorities in our life. And today I'm going to talk what is priority. Sometimes because we don't have priorities, and I said is the biggest problems in our lives if we don't have priorities. And people can be in trouble because if they don't have priorities in their lives, so many problems can reach people. Well, let me give you an example. Just an example in the financial area. It's just to talk about the credit card late payments. How many of you have credit cards? How many of you? Don't be shy. Okay. Well, you know what is late payment? No. Last year, 42 million people missed at least one credit card payment late. And they were late. 42 million people. This right now, American consumers are paying 12 billion a year in credit card late fees. 12 billions. 12,000 millones. No? Billones. Millones. Why? Because they were fees. They were late. No? And what are the consequences of a late payment on a credit card? I'm going just to mention briefly at least three consequences to be late, no, in the payments. Number one, you can be charged late payment fees. No? You may face having the interest rate on your card raised to the penalty rate. And your late payment may be added to your credit history and can end up affecting your credit score. This is some of the consequences. But my topic is not about the credit card. It's something else. Something else, like we were talking last week. But what are the reasons for being late on the credit card payments? Let me show you an statistic. 45% is because people forget. People forget. You can see 27% is because they don't have enough money to pay. But it's not about money. It's about they forgetting to make the payments. And when I was thinking about this, talking about the spiritual life, no, talking about the spiritual life, not having priorities in our spiritual life can be an eternal loss. It's not 7 years. It's not that your score was ruined because you were paid late. If we don't have priorities in our spiritual life, we can lose our life for the eternity. And this is our topic for today. I'm going to mention at least 2 verses, passages from the Bible. First, he said, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Busca primeramente el reino de Dios y su justicia. This is the priority. It's not about money, it's not about other things. Is that we can have, if we don't have God as our priority in our lives, we can lose everything. We can lose everything. We can lose our family. We can lose the job. We can lose everything. But more than that, we can lose our eternal life. Podemos perder muchas cosas, pero si no tenemos a Dios en prioridad en nuestra vida, podemos perder la vida eterna. Everything can be just temporary. Everything on the earth, on the heaven, on earth is just temporary. Everything. You can have health now and tomorrow, no. But to lose our eternal life is forever. It's forever. And Jesus says, seek first. Seek first. This is the priority. And Mark 12, Jesus says, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the first commandment. Love God first with all your heart. We cannot divide our hearts. If we don't have priority, God priority in our life, and then something else is going to take that position. And Jesus was very clear. We cannot have two masters in our heart regarding in the spiritual life. It's just we love God or no. Revelation says, I am the Alpha. Jesus said, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Yo soy el Alfa y el Omega, el principio y el fin, el primero y el último. But sometimes in our life, Jesus is the Omega. Jesus is the end. Jesus is the last. Because we don't have priority. Jesus is the Alpha. Jesus is the beginning. Jesus is the first. If we change that order in our life can be destroyed. Not only ourselves, others can be destroyed because we don't have Jesus as the Alpha, as the beginning, as the first. This is the priority in our life. I learned from this woman. She was 80 years old, reading her Bible. When she was 89 years old, she was not able to read, but she asked, the person who was taking care about her, could you please read the Bible for me? And she was very intentional, not only to listen, but also to put the other person to read the Bible. Now she's 90 years old. She forget so many things. But when we are reading, we heard the Bible, she is remembering. Sometimes she doesn't remember me. But when we started reading, Jehová es mi pastor, she said, nada me faltará. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall know. She repeated because it's in her mind, it's in her heart. Because God was first in her life. Not only that, I can talk about the tithe and the offerings. We were poor, but never my mom took the tithe and the offerings to cover the expenses. No, she was faithful to the Lord. Faithful to the Lord because Lord was first in her life. And there is a blessing, and I would like to just mention this quotation from Ellen G. White. It said, those who in everything make God first and last and best are the happiest people in the world. Amen? And you can continue reading this. This is a powerful quotation from Ellen G. White. The happiest people, las personas más felices en el mundo. Why? Because they have God first. the last in the best in the lives. We are the happiest. We should be the happiest people in the world. And this is religion does not make the receiver coarse and rough until the uncourteous. On the contrary, it elevates and ennobles him, refines his state, sanctifies his judgment, and fits him for the society of heavenly angels and for the home that Jesus has gone to prepare. When we have God in our heart, then we are preparing our heart, our lives, to be in communion with the angels, to be ready to be in home. This is not our home. Our priority is our heavenly home. Dice, ustedes lo leyeron en español. Dios eleva, ennoblece, refina sus gustos, santifica su criterio y lo hace acto para estar en la sociedad de los ángeles celestiales y para el hogar que Jesús ha ido a preparar. This is not our home. But we need to set up our priorities. And let me finish with this. How we can set up priorities. Well, the first thing, be intentional. You can set up a priority for different areas in your life. You need to set up a priority for the finances, your finances, for your health, for your family, for your relationship. But also in your spiritual life, you need to set up priorities. But we need to be intentional. You said, oh, this year I'm going to grow in my spiritual life with God. How? You need to be intentional. You say, okay, this year I'm going to do this. Be intentional. Say intentional. Second, be specific. Okay, this year I'm going to read the Bible. Never before in my life I have read the Bible. Okay, I'm going to do it. But it's in March, don't forget it. Let's do it. You are going to grow reading the Word of God in your life. But we need to be realistic. So, oh, I'm going to read the Bible in 1 month. Forget it. It's not realistic. Be realistic. Say, okay, I'm going to read at least 1 chapter of the Bible. Sea realista. And the last, be persistent. Sea persistente. Today, you forget. Well, let's do it tomorrow. Let's do it. Sometimes we said, oh, I'm going to read the Bible, but we read first what is in the Facebook and the social media, other things, and not to read the message from God. We need to be very intentional in order that we can set up our priorities. I have in my computer, the password is, before to start, he said, no, I read the Bible. No, I read the Bible. And then somebody said, well, but it's better now and learning. I read the Bible first. I read the Bible first. That's something else. And the Lord is going to bless you. It says Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. We have some needs, yes, but the Lord is going to take care about our needs. The Lord be with you, my brothers and sisters. Remember, we need to set out our priorities. And our first priority is God in our lives. The Lord be with you.
Thank you, Pastor Agüero. Now I'm going to invite Pastor Etienne. He's going to talk to us very briefly about stewardship. Before he give the microphone to him, Pastor Agüero mentioned to us that the Lord blessed us tremendously in the year 2022. And I believe I sent to you an email about it. I don't know if you opened the email. I don't know if you see the screen. It's coming. Doesn't want to work. It's now connecting to the computer. Well, in the year 2022, we received over 15 million on tithe. This is now you can see this is a 4-year report, and as you can see on the screen, in the year 2022 we received 50,399,000. How many say amen? Amen? So it's the first time that the conference reached the 50 million. Es la primera vez que la conferencia, ¿verdad? Llega a esa cantidad. We closed with a gain of 3.13% when we compare the year 2022 and the year 2021. Cuando comparamos los 2 años, de 2022 y 2021, tuvimos un crecimiento de 3.13%. Así que we are very grateful to the Lord and also grateful to our brothers and sisters, right, for their faithfulness. And thank you for your hard work, because and we know that you are working hard, and we know that the Lord is blessing you. Okay, now I'm going to give the microphone to Pastor Etienne.
Good morning. Buenos dias. I have only 5 minutes to talk about the mission of stewardship. As you know, a good stewardship director is a good friend of a good treasurer. So, un bueno amigo de mayordomía es un bueno amigo de treasurer. So, I'm going to talk to you about the mission of the New Jersey stewardship. Our mission is to inspire God's people to manage well God's possession and to find the message of hope and wholeness. Nuestra misión es inspirar al pueblo de Dios a administrar bien la posesión de Dios y financiar el mensaje de esperanza y plenitud. So this is our mission. So we have to cast the vision, cast the mission. And also, how are we going to do that? we have to let people know that stewardship, it's not about money. Mayordomia, as mayordomia, it's translate for me, please. It's not only about money. It's about who you are and what you are doing for the Lord. So therefore, we have a few objectives. So we want to emphasize them. Inspire members through media. I have a problem here. To inspire the members through the media at the level of story that opens the heart to the Spirit's influence. And the second is to educate the members through redefining stewardship and its impact of the life in the light of eternity. And the third one is to implement stewardship through training, collaboration, and the development of resources. So it's inspire a los miembros a través de los medios de comunicación en el nivel de la historia que abre el corazón a la influencia del Espíritu. Segundo, educar a los miembros a través de la redefinición de la mayordomía y su impacto en sus vidas a la luz de la eternidad. Tercero, implementar la mayordomía a través de la capacitación, la colaboración y el desarrollo de recursos. So this is our objective and our mission to help the members understand what stewardship is about. La mayordomía es muy importante para cada persona. So we have to know that it's not about money. That's why during this quinquennial, I am putting emphasis on the 4 T's. The 4 T's, which is the temple. Our body is the temple of God. Our talent. So all of us, we have things that we can help the church grow. Our treasures, what God give us. So we have to emphasize this for the members to let them know that it's not about money. So our partnership with God matters. We have to let people know, we have to let them know how stewardship is important. We have to be a good steward. So that's why we have to be a good steward making disciples. So be a good steward for God. So we can make disciples, haciendo discípulos como un fiel mayordomo. So may the Lord bless you. May the Lord help you understand the role and the importance of stewardship so we can make a difference. We can redefine stewardship in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Etienne. Now we're going to start our sessions. So we're going to have 2 sessions, section in Spanish and also the session in English. I hope that that's going to connect to the screen that you can see our program. The session in Spanish is going to be in this room, and the session in English is going to be in the recording studio across this room. If you are planning to assist the English session, will you please stand? And we are going to ask Sister Aldit and Sister Rachel, and they're here. They can guide you to the room across to this room. Will you please? Thank you. So we're going to start at 10, and we're going to finish at 12:30. with the lunch is going to be served here in this room, okay? And we're going to have more announcements during the presentations. Thank you.
Hermanos, ahora vamos a empezar con nuestro entrenamiento en español. Y el primer orador es nuestro hermano Evan Rivera.
Test. So there are pads here if you want. If you want to take notes, it's over here. I don't really have, I don't know if I have enough for everybody. Here. Okay. And there's extra pins over here too. You got the privilege to open it. It's not opening. All right, that's perfect. Okay. Good morning. I see familiar faces, and I know some of you have spoken to me or emailed me through your inquiries, but we haven't met yet. So welcome. Glad to see you here. Okay. Thank you, Philco. So my part is really short, just a review. But first, to those who don't know me, I'm Aldith. I'm the assistant treasurer. And so my part is just a review with these topics: remittances, online giving, and ACH. I know most of you knows it already. To those who are new, we hope that you're going to learn something. And this is just a review, okay? Now, let's go first to remittances. In remittances, there are two items. There are the tithes that you have to pass on to the conference, and the offerings. In the offerings, we have a lot of categories. So in the offerings, we have here a list, a few of the lists, the offerings passed on to the conference. They are the conference advance, evangelism for the conference, education, Adventist Community Service, or ACS, and then the other youth ministries and others. The other ones are Sabbath School Missions, 13 Sabbath Offerings, Religious Liberty, Adventist World Radio, ADRA, Hope for Humanity, or In Gathering. We have the World Budget, Thanksgiving Offerings, and others. On this side, this will be passed on. This does not remain in the conference. The Thanksgiving and all of this does not remain in the conference. This side remains in the conference, all right? Now, in the sunset calendar, this will guide you as to what offering categories, the loose offering you're gonna send. So if you notice, in March, there are 5 Sabbaths. Usually the first and the third goes to where? Local church, it stays with you. And then the 2 other Sabbaths is either go to the World Church, and then the next one will go to your conference. And if there are 5 Sabbaths, 3 of that remains in the church, in the local church. So last Saturday, loose offering goes to where? Very good. You really are the church treasurers. Now, at the beginning, this was given to you, right? So if you need more for your members, because this is a really good guide to have the sunset, right? Please have your pastor contact Raquel, and then Raquel will give the pastors a bunch of it, okay? Right. Now, if you don't have the printed one, it's easy to find them. They are in our website. So you go to the New Jersey Conference website, you clicked on resources, the calendar, and then in the calendar at the bottom, you have 2 choices. You have the English version and then the Spanish version. Okay, and you can also save it to your computer as a PDF. So now, moving on. The online Adventist giving, or Adventist giving, you have to incorporate or import them to your jewel so that it will be together at the end of the month for your remittances. So there are 2 cut-off dates. Some of you miss this sometimes. Say, for example, in March, the offerings that was given to you by your members on March 1 to 15th, this is the cut-off date, will be in your bank every 22nd of the month, if you have noticed that. The offerings that was given to you by your members from the 16th to the 31st will be deposited in your bank the next month. So it will be on April the 6th. But do you put it in jewel as April offering or March offering? Very good, perfect. So this is really important because in the last month of the year, which is December, so on the December 31st or 16th to 31st, if they give offerings, and then they will be on the 6th of January, and if you put it on the 6th of January, this will not be included in the receipts. So it is important to put them in the right month so that it will be included at the end of the year, the right year on the receipts. All right? Okay. Moving on. So deadline, why are deadline important? Why does Aldit always give me an email to remind me on the 10th? All right, here it is. It is necessary for the World Church to operate and plan effectively, okay? So to be on time, we would like to encourage you, it's still your decision, but we would recommend you to please give it to us on the 10th. Because on the 15th, this is our deadline to the union. Once we have it on the 10th, we don't just receive it and pass it around. We have to process it here internally. So if you can give us ample time that we can process it, and then we can be also on time to give it to the union. All right. Now, the union, they will also give it to the division 20th, and then they will give it to the general conference on the 25th. So each of us has our own deadlines to make, and then they will give it to the world. Thank you very much. Now, there are ways to send your remittances. Some of you are accustomed to the checks. The checks is really good. But please, when you do it, make sure that you always put it the last day of the month that you're giving. You know why? Because when you do or when you process your financial statements, that expense, if you don't put it on the right month and on the right day, it will be considered as an expense to the next month. So always edit your check and put it on the last day of the month. All right? Now, this is also in our world now that we have electronic and we are in a world that we're progressing. So this is very easy and more convenient. Anytime, any time of the day, at night, if you're done, you can just send it through electronic transaction. Some of you have also done it, right? Even at the middle of the night, you can send it. So this is called the ACH. How to do it? This is the website. If you don't have this website, you can email me or Rachel, and then we will send this to you. Or you can take a picture of this now. Now, there are requirements. So it's going to require you for organizational code. Where do you find it? In Jewel, and also in our website. You click on entities, church, you search, click on the churches, and you look up your churches. Always, the organizational code will always start with 4 letters, and that is ANBB. If there are any other numbers or letters between those 4, you are in a different conference. So ANBB is the New Jersey Conference. After that, there are 2 other digits. It's either number or a letter, okay? So always mind that if you're in the New Jersey Conference, the organizational code starts with ANBB. Now, you have to put it here, and then as you go through, it will ask for your church name, bank account, amount, etc. And then after the first payment, it will ask you if you want to save it. For further reference, or when you go back, it will not ask you to put again all of those information. And then it will make your username and your password. All right? If you want to store it. Moving on. So always when you close your month, always back it up to the conference along with your remittances so that you will not have to send us a printed copy of your monthly remittances. Once you send your check, you don't have to print your remittances because we have it here. But one important thing when you do that, you need to have a Wi-Fi. This will act as your what? Postman. When the postman is not there, your letter will not be delivered to us. When I called, hey, did you back it up? Yes. Can you check if it has a Wi-Fi? Oh, I don't really know. Then it was not delivered to me because the postman is not there. Okay? So it is really important. So these are our 2 Jewel supports. These are our team. We have Rachel and Edwin. He also speaks Spanish. And then I am a backup of the supporter. I am a backup for the support, and I am backup for the audit. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions. Yes.
Yeah, I noticed that you have 5 Sabbaths for March. You only have 4. 31st is a Friday.
Oh, okay. So probably they put it here because of the sunset. So, and if ever there is 5, always take note that this is for the local church, okay? All right. Thank you. And I will call on Rachel.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Excellent. Thank you. It's good to see all of you. It's good to meet some of you in person. I know a lot of your voices. I'll probably know your voice when you ask me a question, but I won't remember your face. We've never met in person. As I'm just pulling up my slides, I want to just take a moment to do a little housekeeping. So this is being recorded, so I'm just going to ask that if you have questions, just save them for the end of the session. I'll pause for questions. And then in the afternoon, we are going to have some time at 1:30 together to do a little Joule training. So we'll have more time then to get to any questions that we didn't get to at the moment. And I did want to let some of you know, if you have been audited last year, some of you have to pick up your audits. So I'm just going to read that list. If you hear your church name, please see me during lunch, and I'll give that box back to you. Please take it home. I'm running out of space. If you see my office, I'm like in a corner surrounded by boxes. So Perth Amboy Spanish, Elizabeth Spanish, West Long Branch Spanish, Bridgeton Spanish, La Victoria Spanish, La Esperanza Spanish, Jersey City Heights Spanish, Harrison Spanish, Robbinsville, Rahway, All Nations, Waldwick, First Bilingual, Laurelwood, Clifton Spanish. If you forget, you can always ask me later. All right, so we're going to be talking together about the audit today, and we're going to be talking about internal controls. So I know many of you have been audited already. You may be familiar with the process, so we're just going to quickly go through what that looks like. So an audit is a periodic review of the church's financial records. We do this usually every 2 years, and you will know when you have one. I think some people already today asked me when they'll have one, when their next one is. We will let you know, usually in January by email, phone, snail mail, any way that we can find you. We'll make sure that you know about it and that you know what you need to prepare. But so that you can be prepared in advance, we are going to discuss that today too, the materials that you'll need. So a couple reasons that audits are important is they provide an opportunity for you to receive important training that you need. It allows us to find any gaps in your knowledge in the treasury and educate you on those policies and things that you may need to do differently. It also helps us to locate errors and correct them in a timely manner so that they don't become more and more confusing over time. I know some of you have experienced that. You look at your Joule and you're like, this was 10 years ago. Why is this 3 cents still plaguing me, right? So when we audit, we try to take care of those things so it doesn't become a headache. It also fulfills our responsibilities of Christian stewardship to ensure that all of those donated funds are used as the donors intended. It's a very important point that, the way that the person donated, that's how it should be used. We need to have respect and honor for that. And it also provides a third party for accountability so that the church board members can be assured that the records are accurate, because that audit report should be read in the board, and we'll talk about that later. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the documents that you need to send. We do need a copy of your Joule if you're using Joule. Some of you may be still using a paper ledger or another system. And this is just a little example of how you send to the auditor in Joule. You would go to the File menu and click on Send to Auditor, but if you are sending monthly backups, you don't need to worry about that. I already have the most recent copy of your Joule program. So if you are closing the month and you come to a screen that says Send Month-End Backup to Conference, you're on the right track. If you come to the end of the month and you've never noticed that, you should let me know, because we may have to add that setting to your system so that your database is backed up regularly in case something does happen to your computer. So other documents you need to send are statements. All statements for all church bank accounts. There's a list of them there, any accounts that your church has. You also need to send your expense backups and check stubs if you have them. I know some checkbooks don't have check stubs, but if you have those, you send them, and then if you have expense backups, you send those. Expense backups are required for every disbursement that the church makes. So there should be nothing paid without an explanation, without a backup to support that. And some examples of what that could look like are your reimbursement or check request form. We'll touch on that again later. Invoices, bills, or receipts, and board approvals. Sometimes there's things that don't have a receipt, right? Like a speaker coming to visit. And in that case, you would have a board approval, and that's your backup for that expense. And you include those minutes with your audit as well, which is the next item, board minutes. You also need your tithe envelopes in batches by week. So we really prefer that you every week sort those envelopes, put them in a nice little envelope or rubber band with the counting form, another form we'll touch on, so that way it's very easy for us to go through week by week and verify. And the Adventist giving reports for the audit period. Personally, I like to save these electronically to avoid printing everything, and that is an option for how to submit your documents. So I have just our address up there. The first way to submit your documents is to bring them here or to send them with your pastor. If it's a struggle for you, if it's a trial for you to get them here, you can call me. We can work something out to to figure out the logistics. And also electronically, they can be shared by email, they can be shared Google Docs, Dropbox, Flash Drive, any way that's accessible to you, and I can assist you with doing that if if that's a challenge. And make sure that if you are sending electronically, your folders are organized electronically the same way you would organize them if they were paper, right? It's difficult to receive a huge list of unnamed files and go through those and find them. So we really appreciate when you name things and organize them into folders. So what happens after your audit, right? This is where we really get to the real purpose of it and the real meat of the audit and why it is helpful. So when your audit is finished, your auditor, which in this case will be myself, Heather or Aldith, will call you and will give you a little overview of your recommendations, why we chose them, what we think can be improved at your church, and we'll give you the next week to submit additional documents or discuss with us any changes or concerns that you have. So we really want to work with you to make sure that this is helpful for you, that you understand everything that we are giving to you, and that you feel comfortable with the final document. So after that, we will be mailing the letter and emailing it to you and your pastor, and it should be read and approved at the board meeting. So I think this step is often not known about and is skipped, but it's important that the board is aware of the results because that can really give them the confidence that the treasurer is keeping accurate records, and it helps them have a fuller understanding of the church policies as well. Sometimes there's policy things in the audit that need to be addressed, and the board actually needs to respond to some of those and take action there. So pay attention to your recommendations. You'll generally have two types, either changing processes or policies in the future, or past items in Joule or in your accounting system that need to be corrected. So make sure you take action on those quickly in the next few weeks. Speak to myself, speak to Edwin if you prefer Spanish support, or Aldith if we're not here, and ask us to assist you with fixing any errors that you have, and discuss with your board when you go over your report the recommendations and how you can implement those in a way that works best for your church. And we're happy to assist you there as well. Often I noted that you'll have forms related to your audit, and we always send those to you, but they're also available on the conference website. A lot of our resources are. So this is just a screenshot of the page. You can get here by going to njcsda.org and clicking on the departments and then the treasury page. This is at the bottom. We have a couple of forms there that you can download and use. We also have our treasury trainings uploaded there. This training will be uploaded there. And if some of you have noticed, I've been doing a newsletter series this year. I hope that you've been enjoying it and that I'm not too annoying in your inbox. We're going to start uploading those to the website. It just takes a little time to process them, but they will be on the bottom, so you'll be able to access those past newsletters and any tricks and tips for Joule that are in there. All right, so we have gone over the audit. We're now moving on to internal controls. So this is related to the audit in that most of your recommendations and the things that we're checking in your audit are related to this topic of internal controls. And what that means is a set of policies and procedures that are adopted by each local church to protect the assets of the church and the people who are handling it, which is you. So these are designed to protect you, to protect you from the liability of the things that can occur in the church. And internal controls are called internal because they're checks and balances for the local church. So one very simple one related to the audit is storing your documents. So I'm sure some of you have beautiful state-of-the-art safes in your church that you can keep everything safe from fire and anything that could ever happen. But if you don't have that, a plastic bin will do. A locked closet is also helpful, just to make sure that nothing gets misplaced and that water and damage is not an issue. And if documents are kept in boxes, make sure that you are also using an accurate filing system. So like I said before, you can use a filing system very similar for electronic and for paper. I'm just going to set this in front of you if you don't mind for just for a second. So this is mine. This is from the Hackettstown Church. So you can see what the auditor does, and you can judge me for my horrible handwriting. So I just use a nice little group of folders here, one for each month. And then when I pop it out, I've got my March label, I've got my March income, my March expenses, anything extra goes in the back, and I have one folder in the back of my container for extra items like things that come from the bank or the insurance company that I need to save. At the end of the year, when I have my audit, which Aldith does for me, I'm not auditing my own church, don't worry. I will just pull all these out, put them in a box, and bring them to the office. And I don't have to stress about it, which is nice. I remember my first audit, I was not ready at all. And I have experienced what some of you have experienced, that you're like surprised and you think, oh my goodness, this is so much paper. Where do I get all this? But if you're doing it every month, you enter your expense in Joule and you pop it in your folder, you'll be ready when the time comes. Oh, and I'm sorry, I did have an example there just of the electronic folders, how you can organize them. This is a screenshot from a USB that I received this year from First Bilingual that was so organized. It was amazing. So we love when you do that also. All right, so this is a lot of paper. So sometimes you get overrun with it, and we want to discuss how long you actually have to keep it. So this slide shows you the permanent records. I do have copies of this on paper that you can take home with you. They'll be at the registration table later. And this slide is showing you the non-permanent records. So these are the ones that you can shred after 6 years. So bank statements and reconciliations, expense backups, check stubs, deposit slips, tithe receipts. And tithe receipts meaning the ones that you give out to your donors. And then the tithe envelopes, you can actually shred those after they are audited. So that can be more than 2 years or less, so I put typically every 2 years. But after your audit box comes back, you don't have to store those tithe envelopes. As long as the audit is actually closed, everything has been resolved, you can shred those. Next, we're going to move on to some policies and forms. These are some common policies that you'll see noted on your audit. We already went over this one, so if you remember, the local church gets how many times in the month, typically? 2 times, yep. And then the other 2 are for Conference and World Funds. Another important policy that will often get noted on audits is using check request forms. So this is a suggested process for approval of your expenses. You may want to create your own form and add to this process a little bit, but this is an example of the one that we suggest. I have copies of this for you, and there's copies on the website. So the idea is that you should be recording the information for each expense. You can fit more than one expense on here if a person needs to be reimbursed for more than one thing. And it also gets authorized by your department head. So if it's the youth department, you should be telling the youth director, right, what money someone's spending from that department just to make sure everything is understood. So that's kind of the internal control process behind this form, is communication, really, and making sure that there's a record of those approvals. The next one is the counting form. I mentioned this earlier. This should be saved with your tithe envelopes in weekly batches. And this allows you to have 2 signers on your offerings. Offerings should be counted by 2 non-family members who are approved by the board to verify the offering. So examples of that could be the treasurer, assistant treasurer, elder, pastor, deacon. And they will count the loose cash. It will be like the assistant and the treasurer that will actually review the envelopes. But you need someone to double count the total amount of cash and checks and make sure that everything is there and is matching the count that the treasurer has made. That's the purpose of that, if that's helpful. And there's a space for 2 signatures at the bottom. Again, this is our suggestion. If you don't like this form, if you have a nicer way of doing it, you want to do it on Excel, as long as you're signing it, 2 people are counting it, that's what we require. So you can edit as needed. And then a few more policies to review, common things you'll find on your audit, just so you hear them now. Deposits, we recommend that all funds be deposited in the bank by the 2nd business day after they're collected. So that means offerings, that could be, checks that are given to you during the week. A lot of us have Wednesday night prayer meeting, collect offerings. The same applies to that. So it's recommended that those funds don't stay with you outside the bank for more than 2 days. Board reports is another topic we're going to touch on in some detail. The treasurer does have to prepare monthly reports for the board, which I'm sure you know. That's a big part of your job, right, is to give that information for them for decision making. And those should be read at each board meeting. All church bank accounts must be managed by the church treasurer and or the board and finance committee per the church manual. So the language in the church manual is that the treasurer is the custodian of all church funds. So that means Pathfinder clubs, adventurers, community service. If they have a fund separate from your normal bank account, that should be managed by you in your accounting system, and it should be in the bank. A petty cash policy and NGC policies require that all church funds be in a bank that is managed by the treasurer. So we're going to go into some board reports, and this gets into Joule a little bit. So if something is a little bit unfamiliar to you or confusing, just know that we'll touch on it in the afternoon in more of the basic detail if you're newer to this. I went into a little more detail in this presentation because I know a lot of you come to the Treasury trainings and have heard this information before, so you're looking for maybe a little more depth. So that's what we're going to do in this last few minutes that we have together. So this is an example of the main board report that Jewel gives you, right, that you can give to your board every month. This is the FS, and this is a fake church that I created. We can see on the screen how much money they have in their account. And something common that I see on audits is financial summaries that haven't been maintained properly, and they get a little bit out of balance. Now, what do I mean by that? If you can see this well, can anybody tell me how much money this church has in their church budget account available to spend? $1,281. So $1,281 is the total local funds. In the church budget account specifically, can you see that line? $1,495.25. So that would make sense because that's what it says. But how can they have $1,495.25 in their church budget and only $1,281 in their bank account? Yes, because there's negatives. This happens a lot. And it's good to go through every period and make transfers to zero those out so that all your accounts are accurate. We only have like 10 accounts here, so we can easily just do our math in our head and say, oh, okay, we know that that's not completely accurate. We have those negatives. But some people, I've seen like hundreds of accounts on their list, which is, I do not recommend that. But even if you have 20, your board is going to see that, and they're not going to do that math, and it's going to be exhausting for you to explain it to them every month. So I really suggest that monthly, at least, you go through and you do some transfers to clean that up. So that's our next topic, is how we can make our financial summary more accurate. So the first thing is to do those transfers. If that's confusing to you, if you're not familiar, that's something we'll talk about in the afternoon. I can always assist you as well. And keep an eye out for inactive funds. There is sometimes funds that sit on your account list forever and you don't know what they are, maybe they're not being utilized, and they may be there because someone donated them for a specific purpose, and that's referred to as a trust fund, because we're not supposed to use donations in a way other than the donor intended, right? We mentioned that already. So if it is a trust fund that cannot be used because maybe the ministry closed or it's inactive, that's something for your board and a business meeting to discuss. The church is the only one that has the power to move a trust fund to a new purpose, and the manual advises that that be as similar as possible. So on our financial summary, we had one of these items, and it's the Brazil mission trip 2021, but it's not 2021, and we may never go back to Brazil, right? So maybe our church needs to decide to plan Honduras mission trip 2024, and then we're going to transfer that money, right? Because it's a similar purpose, and the church donors can agree that that is in key with their values, and they can move it to that area. So that's an example of when you would use that process. You can also create a special fund to store the money in your savings account so that it doesn't get spent by writing a check from a local fund. So you can see on this local account list, they don't have a savings account. So their savings money is actually spread between all those local accounts. So if they start spending from local accounts and they're not paying attention to the separate bank balances, they may spend down their checking account and get into their savings money without even realizing it. So that's why I advise that you actually have a savings line or something of that sort on your local account, or at least know where that money belongs. Maybe it's in building fund for you or church budget, and know where that floor is for you so that you're not overspending from your checking. All right, and also review your financial summary to ensure that no accounts have been duplicated and that all the accounts are relevant. So sometimes when you're typing in your Jewel accounts, it's not coming up, and so you just create a new one. If that's happening, make sure that you're reviewing periodically to make sure that your account list isn't becoming unmanageably long. I put a few more examples here of board reports that you can use. On the side there is an example of where you get those in Jewel on the reports menu, and they are the contribution report, the summary, not the detail. The detail has everybody's names, right? So the summary just has what you collected for the different accounts that month. That can be helpful for your board. The income statement from Jewel can be helpful for your board. That shows the difference between the income that came in and the expenses that came in. So did you make money or lose money? That's a question that they ask sometimes, right? And this is an easy way to find out. And a check report. It's actually recommended that your board review your check report periodically because they need to understand the expenses, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are responsible for that, not necessarily you. You're the record keeper, but they're the decision-making power there, so they need to take responsibility for what the church is spending and understand their financial situation, because they're the ones that have the authority to spend the money. All right, so we are going to spend a little time on this, on the bank recs. So another board report that you can do is actually your bank rec report. And there's a way to teach your board how to review this. That's what we're going to go over right now. If a bank rec is unfamiliar or unsavory to you, I don't blame you, but we will discuss that more in the afternoon if you need more time to process it and understand what that is and how it's used. And that's something that I can also do support individually with you as well if it needs updating, or if you just need some time to understand it better. So reconciling your bank account is the process of proving that your account records correspond with your bank account. So it doesn't mean they'll always be exactly the same. Does anybody know why that may be? Why they wouldn't always be exactly the same? Yes, deposits in transit, checks in transit, right? It's really common for us to write our remittance check at the end of the month, then it doesn't cash till the next month. So we can't expect that to be reflected in our bank balance. So this is how we find out briefly if the bank balance and Joule match. Just a really quick overview of what the process is. We'll discuss it more in the afternoon, but start with your bank balance, so the ending balance that you have in your bank account. And then you identify what are those deposits from Joule that didn't clear the bank yet. You take that number and you add it to the bank balance as if they had cleared. Then you find out what are those expenses from Joule that haven't cleared the bank yet. You take that number, you subtract it from your new ending plus deposits. And that should equal your Joule balance, because that's what the difference is there. It's made up of those uncleared items. That's just the basics of it. Again, we'll do more detail in the afternoon. So this is a process that we haven't really touched on much before, but this is what I recommend for working with your board to verify that your bank account is correct and that your bank reconciliation is correct. And this is kind of how to explain to them how that process works. I do have this on paper for you too that you can take home, and it is on the website. So there's a couple steps that we're going to go through, and we're going to use our sample bank rec from our fake Joule church. And we're going to go through these questions together as quickly as we can and just give you an idea of how this process works. So I know you're taking pictures. Let me know if you need me to pause at any point. But our first question on our bank rec comparison is, are bank recs being done every month? So you and your board or a representative from your board can check that. So our date on our bank statement is October 1st. So if it's a February 2023 meeting, we may be concerned, right? Because the bank hasn't been reconciled in several months. But if it's November, then we're good. We're happy with that. Our second question is to make sure any adjustments on Joule's bank rec report are also found in the statement. On our example, we don't have adjustments, but sometimes adjustments are needed to correct a check that didn't cash correctly, or add $1 to a deposit if the bank counted it differently than you did. And you have to make sure that those things are reflected on the bank statement as well as the bank rec, and that's something that your board can review as well. Step 3 is the cleared ending balance on Joule's bank rec report should match the ending balance on the bank statement. So we can test that right here. And the orange makes it a little hard to see, I apologize. But our ending balance on our bank rec, $1,426.50, and on our bank statement, and then on our bank rec report, it's also $1,426.50. So that shows that the treasurer is using the correct ending balance to calculate this information. Okay, so then after this, the auditor should be called for assistance if the treasurer or the board member notes any of these items. An outstanding check older than 3 months, an unclear deposit more than 30 days old, any odd adjustment that is uncleared or doesn't make sense, or any unexplained difference. So on our example, we actually do have here, let's see, what have we got? We have one check on our bank rec that's from May. So we're going to notice that, and that's a little old, right? That this guy, theologian, whoever he is, he should have cleared this check by now. He should have cashed it. So we need to contact him and see what happened. And if he didn't cash it, we need to void that check. So those are things that you can keep an eye out for as you're doing this process. Oops, sorry. And lastly, after all of the items have been verified, sign your name as the treasurer, date it, and have a rep from the board sign it and date it. So this can be kept in your folders with your monthly statements. And it really gives your board peace of mind and helps them understand your finances better and helps them understand that your accounts are accurate. So if you've ever had a problem, explaining to your board this topic, because it can be a little confusing at first, this is a good way to go about that. Okay, so we are going to skip ahead a little bit because we are just a little short on time. I want to give you time for questions. We'll discuss more in the afternoon about bank recs. If you want to hear more, please come again at 1:30. I wanted to share with you that there are some resources online at JewelSDA.com. And there are videos there on all the basics of Jewel. We're going to do some of that this afternoon, but if you go home and you forget something like how to void a check or a certain nuance of entering offerings, you can go and watch these videos, and they are in English and Spanish, which is really helpful too. So that's jewelsda.com/support.html. And if you lose any of this information, the PowerPoint will be posted online, and I can always send it to you. We discussed our afternoon session is going to be Jewel basics and further Q&A, so please save any questions that you didn't get to ask for that time. And at this time, I'm just going to share my contact with you, and I'll ask you what questions you have from this session. We'll get to as many as we can in like five minutes. So any questions at the moment? I will have cards for you too. Yes?
Does the conference have access to the Adventist online giving?
Does the conference have access to Adventist giving? Yes, we do. I don't, but Aldith does, yeah. Yeah, we can actually see that, and we can assist you if you have an issue with your Adventist Giving account. I know Adventist Giving has been updating in the past couple weeks, so your account's going to start to look different. It should be more user-friendly. We hope that you like it more. But if you have any issues with it, you can feel free to call us about that. Any other questions?
Thinking about that, if we want to start the Adventist Giving,
Yes.
talk to you or Aldith?
You can talk to either of us. I think Aldith has less time than me, if you can believe that. So maybe talk to me or Edwin. Yeah, it's easy to do. Yes.
I think it would be ideal to get those training more than once a year. And otherwise, if you can send out the documents so we can go through them and learn more
Yes.
about how to manage.
Yes, very good point. So she was just sharing that it would be ideal to have trainings more than once a year. I completely agree. My solution that I can personally present to you for that is that I'm willing to visit you, especially if you can get a group of you together regionally. That would be great. If you need a mid-year training, I have done those before. I can't go to every church individually because there's like 115, and also I don't speak Spanish. So we also need to kind of work together, me and Edwin, on that. But please contact me if you feel you need more training on something. That's what I'm here for. And sometimes it can be done over a phone call. Sometimes I need to visit you. We can meet in a public place. You can come here. You're always welcome here. So yeah, please just reach out.
Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions? Yes.
I don't know if everyone is aware, in the Jewel there is a handbook on the system itself.
Very good point. Thank you for pointing. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, brother. So he was pointing out that in Jewel, I think it's under the help menu, there is actually a guide, a handbook for Jewel that has a lot of instructions and information in it. So you can always go there first if you want to look up something, reference something. Did you have a question?
Yeah. I noticed that there's two types in Jewel's report, types and the types English. There's a different numbers on both categories.
Okay. Then this is you're saying in your Jewel that there is two, you have two. Okay. So it's whatever works for your church. A lot of people do have tithe English, tithe Spanish. We want to kind of measure the difference between those. But if it works better for you to have one, what we can do, and you can contact me about this, we can deactivate one account after it's empty, and then you can just start using the one that you want to keep. Jewel accounts can't be deleted. You may have noticed that once they've been used and transactions have been entered, deleting the account would delete the transactions. So we cannot delete them, but we can inactivate them if it's a situation where you have too many or they're duplicates or whatever it may be. Hopefully that's helpful.
And the
Yes, so yeah, good point. The reason there's two is that the NND requires two different reporting methods. So if your church is English, you may want to use the English tithe, right? But if you are a Spanish church, you should use the Spanish one.
And
Yeah.
English is Indonesia, Korean,
Right.
all other.
Good question.
It doesn't matter on the report, but second question is the Adventist giving and the jewels are connected to
Can
each
they-
other or linked to each other, right? So if we're going to add some categories in Adventist giving, it does automatically goes to the jewels account? or-
Okay, good question. So he's asking if the Adventist giving and Jewel are synced, if like things you change in Adventist giving change in Jewel. Not automatically. So if you're doing importing on your Adventist giving report, you'll see a screen that comes up and the little accounts will turn red if they're not mapped. It's going to ask you to map those. So it'll ask you to choose where to map it to. If that account doesn't exist in your system, you'll create a conference account. If you have the update, which is something I put in my presentation last year, but not this year, if you don't have the update, get the update. If you have the update, the conference list of accounts is going to pop up, and it's going to give you all of the conference accounts, and it'll be there. If it's on Adventist Giving, it's on the Jewel list. Yes. One more question, and then I think we'll save the rest for the afternoon. What was your question?
My question is, you said the two different tithes, English and Spanish, is because you tried to determine the churches. I'm a English church, and I find both because people get the preference to use Spanish. So I do have both Spanish and English typing report for my.
Okay, thank you. I think Aldith has a point for you.
Yes, if they choose to put it in Spanish, it's okay, even though you're in English. Once we receive it here, we could still process it and divide it into English where it should go, and the Spanish goes to the Spanish. So even if you're English churches and some wanted to put it in the Spanish, it's still acceptable, and we can still always allocate it to the right category that they want.
All right, thank you so much, Aldith. We are going to move on now to our next session, which will be with Bianca from Adventist Risk Management, and I'm always going to introduce her. So thank you all so much for your time. Please reach out to me if there's anything you need.
Thank you, Rachel. And can you stand up a little bit? Okay. For some of you, you want some snack, we have some snack over there. Sit down, please. It's always good to stretch. While Bianca Madanet, she's coming from the Mid-America, right? That's your territory.
I will give a full account.
All
I
right.
am an account executive for Adventist Risk Management, and I manage territories in the Mid-America Union, Atlantic Union, and SDA Church in Canada.
Wow.
So we're
She
quite
has
busy.
a lot in her head. Yeah. But please welcome her, and she's coming here to help us to understand a little more about the Adventist Risk Management. We also gonna be here in the afternoon if you have any question, and I'm gonna be here until 3. I represent the New Jersey Conference Adventist Risk Management, and I'm here to help you too. So thank you very much for coming and let us to be more knowledgeable about Adventist Risk Management.
Okay, while I'm getting set up, you can go ahead and help yourselves to some snacks. What did you say? Can I have a little media help here? I need the media person to give me a little hand. It's done? All right.
She got it, she got it.
Thank you. All right, good morning. I am very happy to be here. It's my first time in New Jersey, and I'm very happy to be here in person to help my colleague who has taken over the territory. Rocio Roberts will be the account executive for the New Jersey Conference, and I'm here to help her while she is presenting simultaneously in Spanish. Like I said, my name is Bianca Madanat. I am with Adventist Risk Management. I'm an account executive for Mid-America Union, Atlantic Union, and the SDA Church in Canada. A little background about me. I have been with the company for 4 years. I am of Romanian descent. I speak 4 languages, so that's why my accent is a little off. Let me know if you can't understand me or if I'm a little too fast. Bună dimineața. And I'm very happy to be here today and talk about an exciting topic that I know makes your heart very happy, risk management. So we are going to start with a general training today. We will talk about protecting the assets of the church and what needs to be done for us to be able to do so, and what resources we have available at Adventist Risk Management to help you in that endeavor. Our motto in our company is, our ministry is to protect your ministry. And of course, we can do that by partnering with you, by helping you with resources and tools that you need to be able to provide a safety environment for your organization. And when we talk about risk management, we look at it from this perspective of 3 pillars. So let's start with the first one, risk identification. What does that mean? When you are talking about risk management, the first thing that you need to do is to scan your environment, to see where your hazards are, where your risks are coming from, and what the outcome will be, and what it will cost your church. So you have to be able to identify the dangers and what that's going to mean for you financially. Second is risk control. Once you identify your dangers, your risks, what mitigation tactics do you have at your disposal to take care of that hazard, of that risk? And lastly, you have risk financing. When you risk control a situation, you can either prevent it, not do that activity at all, minimize it, or prevent it. And you can also do that by buying insurance, by opting to retain that risk and paying out of pocket for the entire loss, or by transferring the risk. And how do you do that? You go to a third party who will take that risk for you. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you have a ministry and they want to do a little rock climbing, right? So as a risk manager, you are going to have to think the first pillar. Where are the dangers? Okay? Do we have qualified personnel that can show us how to do this safely? Do we have gear that is properly calibrated that we can use, that can hold us so that we do not fall and injure ourselves? And if we do get injured, how bad are these injuries going to be? How much are they going to cost? So this is how you apply the first pillar. The second, risk control. How do we do that? Well, we make sure we have trained personnel. We make sure that our gear is calibrated. Or we don't do this at all. We try to avoid it. That's also a risk management technique. And you will look at the third pillar. What do we do now? Now that we know what we need to do to keep it safe, we will make sure that this is a covered activity on the policy. If it's not covered, which is not, we have to add it by endorsement and pay a premium. Or you can transfer this by going to a third party that organizes these rock climbing activities indoor, and then they will have calibrated equipment, they will have safety measures in place, and they will also be close to a medical facility. If something happens, you will be able to get help to that person that gets injured, rather than you being in the wilderness trying to climb a rock or whatever. You don't know if you'll have service. You don't know how far you're going to be from the medical facility. So applying these 3 pillars, identification, control, and risk financing, will help you in your risk management strategy when you're trying to do an activity that you're not sure how it will impact your church. So Plan to minimize risk. Planning ahead is one of the most important steps in risk management. And wisdom of the importance of making plans can be found in these words from King Solomon. Where there is no counsel, the people fall. But in a multitude of counselors, there is safety. Proverbs 11:14. In other words, hasty plans and decisions can result in devastating losses. And strategic risk management requires attention to detail and planning. And we see far too often the apathetical thinking being the mindset of leaders in the form of God won't allow anything to happen to us. Unfortunately, there is a lot of evidence that suggests that poor planning can result in tragic accidents and catastrophic losses and even litigation brought against your church. And having said that, I want to say a little more by saying that this is your area of responsibility. And this is a leadership role. When you are undertaking risk management planning at your church, this is a leadership role. And with this comes a duty to protect. You have a duty to protect those under your care, custody, or control. You have a duty for their safety. And also, please remember that you represent something much larger than yourself. You're not just the pastor or the church or the safety officer. You're not just that. Because the way we are structured, you and everything you do, all your actions, all your activities will have implication and legal implications for your conference. So if there's a lawsuit that is being brought against your church for your negligence, because the way we are structured and because the conference is the lowest legal entity recognized on the policy, your conference will have to step in. They will be named in that suit that is brought against you, and they will have to defend themselves in that suit. So it's very important that you remember that you are not representing just your church. You're not representing just Christianity for your congregation. You are part of a bigger picture. You represent the conference, the union, the division. So everything you do at your church level will affect the entire conference. For example, at the renewal, we have a lot of churches who have had no losses, and yet they suffer an increase in premium. And why is that? Because if you had one church that has had a very large loss, then the loss will affect the entire conference. The loss will be distributed via an increase in rates towards all the churches. So it's important to keep in mind that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. We represent something much larger than just our one church. So when you are undertaking risk management, please remember that you are not alone. Protecting people and the assets of the church are a team effort, and together with the pastor, the safety officer, treasurer, Sabbath school teacher, youth leader, and facility manager, we will be able to provide for an injury-free program and for a safe environment for our organization. And depending on the size of your church, you can also form a safety committee that reports to the church board, and the safety officer should be the lead person for this endeavor, and they should be the point of contact for the risk management strategy for your organization. And we're going to talk about the safety officer. The safety officer is the person that is in charge of making sure that your environment is a safe environment so that your pastor can focus on ministry and growing that ministry. And together with the entire church, you can achieve that goal of creating a safe environment for your church. So I'm going to go to the next slide where we talk about the duties, the responsibilities that belong to the safety officer. And we are going to talk about some of these in detail in the upcoming slides. So we have self-inspections and evaluation. Very important to know what your church owns, what their possessions are, and where the hazards can occur. Security of the church, emergency planning, We have Safety Sabbath next Sabbath. How many of your churches have registered and received the information on holding fire drills and emergency planning for your churches? Child protection, maintenance, incident report, response, safety education, and also the safety officer must spearhead the safety committee. And then if you look at the list, it looks very comprehensive and it can be daunting. Where can we get all this information? And just a second. We have resources on our website to help educate the safety officer. They're in the form of brochures or PDF files that can be downloaded, or we even have webinars that are recorded video sessions where we train you in different topics. They are also found at our website under resources, webinars, and videos. So you can find many topics there that could interest you. Also, I'm happy to report that we have received this question many times. How can we get a comprehensive training that is designed specifically for our church and has all the areas that are of interest to the safety officer and pastor? So we have put together a safety risk management training that is available on our website. All you have to do is go to risk training, adventistrisk.org/risk training, make an account. The training is available in Spanish and English. It is free of charge, and it will give you an overview of all the areas that you need to be aware and all the topics that we discussed earlier as the responsibility of the safety officer. And here I have a video. Let me see if you...
The Risk Training Center from Adventist Risk Management is a new online learning community that will put risk and safety training in the hands of local ministry leaders. Using state-of-the-art learning technology and techniques, learners are able to manage their course enrollment and work at their own pace to complete each module. The Risk Training Center courses utilize a number of different learning styles in each module to keep the learner engaged, and links to the ARM website connect learners to additional resources if they want more information. Our first two courses, Risk Management for Pastors and Risk Management for Safety Officers, give an introduction to the basics of risk management and are offered in both English and Spanish. Additional introductory courses are being developed for teachers and Pathfinder leaders. Our roadmap for future course development also includes a number of shorter courses that take a deep dive into specific topics of risk management. The Risk Training Center gives ARM the opportunity to partner with individual conferences to automatically enroll a large group of employees for a specific course. The conference will be able to monitor the progress of their employees to ensure everyone completes the course. Learn more by visiting adventistrisk.org/risk training center.
All right, has any of you taken the Risk Training Center course on our website? Okay, well, it is available right now. We have courses for safety officers and for pastors, and you don't have to be a safety officer or a pastor to take these courses. Like I said, they're free of charge. If you take it in one go, it will take you about 2 to 3 hours, depending on your pace. You can take a break and pick up. If you get stuck, you can give us a call and we can walk you through it. And it is easy to follow. It does not have insurance terms or language that can be difficult for you to understand. And it's very interactive. And at the end of the day, you walk away with a lot of awareness of where your hazards, where your risks are, and you will be able to provide solutions for your church. And when you have a safety officer or pastor that is passionate about risk management, then you will be able to emulate that into your congregation. So I encourage you to sign up, get trained, and know what to do. And once you are finished with this training, you will receive a certificate that you have completed this training. And also, when these are being reported to us, I am able to use this when I negotiate a renewal rate. I can tell them that my treasurers, my clerks are being proactive, they are doing their due diligence, they are learning about risk management, so I'm able to negotiate a better rate when I have numbers that shows that your church is involved in training. And this is also available in Spanish. So let's talk about the first duty of the safety officer, which is self-inspections. And then for the self-inspection, we have on our website this checklist inspection form that will allow you to check the inventory of your building, and then there's many items on the list that will help you put down the status of your building and equipment and everything that is in the church's possession. So this form will help you do a thorough inspection of your building and see areas that need improvement. Also, every 5 years, Adventist Risk Management partners with Verisk to provide property surveys for your buildings. New Jersey Conference was surveyed last year in October, I believe, and after each survey, if the inspector had access to the inside of your building, after they finish their survey, they will provide you with a report. That report will include a detailed description of your premises, buildings, and also give you recommendations. The recommendations are areas that need improvement, and they could be high severity, like for example, a faulty circuit electric panel, or low severity. And what you need to do, you will need to rectify those recommendations and let us know so that we can update your account. Again, if I have this also together with the training, if I see that you've done your due diligence and rectified those recommendations, then I can also use that as a bargaining chip when I go to my underwriters and the policy is renewal, there's been some large losses, but I can still negotiate with them because I can tell them that New Jersey Conference is being proactive. They're doing all these things to provide for a safer environment, and then I can get a more favorable rate. So it's very important that we follow up, not only to get this advantage, but also to provide for a safe environment for our churches. And I wanted to give you a little fact about what is the most frequent property claim received at ARM for your area, and it is water damage. And this can stem from burst pipes, frozen pipes, and the most common casualty received at ARM for the area is slip and fall injury. And what does that tell us? Poor maintenance of premises. So we're going to talk about how to remedy that. The safety officer also have to be in charge of the fire protection elements. Each church has fire protection elements that protect their church, and the most common one is the fire extinguisher. And as a church safety officer, you have to make sure that your fire extinguishers are serviced, are up to date, they're not being tampered with, and they're being ready to use. Imagine having an emergency, a fire breaking out, and you go for the fire extinguisher and then you realize it's not functioning. It's not working properly. Imagine the panic that can ensue because you cannot put out the fire, and imagine how this could escalate to a much, much bigger loss. So very important to have that fire extinguisher serviced every year and make sure it's not tampered with and in working condition. And I think the fire marshal can do that for you, or there are companies that service fire extinguishers. And when the property inspectors come to inspect, they also look at these items. So you may have, these are low. If you have a fire extinguisher, they will put that in recommendation. A fire extinguisher need to be serviced, or the exit signs are not illuminated. There's no egress map. There's clutter around the doors. So these are low impact recommendations that you can easily fix, right? Some churches have security systems and the lighting, and they also have carbon monoxide detectors. We recommend having those if there are fumes emanating from fuels, and we recommend having proper storage for flammable, but ideally we would not want to see a lot of flammable in one place. And if you do have them, store them in proper cabinets that are suited for this purpose. And let's talk about slips, trips, and fall. This is the highest number of claim for casualty, for general liability that we receive. And there are many causes for the slips, trips, and fall, both indoors and outdoors. So as a safety officer, you would walk indoor, you would go inside, and you would look for areas of concern. You would look for lifting carpet, cracked or missing tiles. You would look for handrails that are missing. You would look for poorly illuminated areas. Imagine going down the basement and the light is broken. There's no light there. And you also don't have a handrail. Can you imagine if you have an elderly person trying to go carrying a box of something? Disaster. They can break a hip, a leg, and it's a very long recovery for them, very costly. And as a safety officer, you also have to inspect your outside areas because you will have to look at your parking lot. Are there potholes? Are there cracks in the pavement? Because these can result in twisted ankles, and then you have an injury on your hand. Somebody that claims that your premises were not well maintained, and because of that, they got injured. You have to look at sidewalks. Are they cracked? Are there tree roots lifting up the pavement? Is there settling? It doesn't take much of an elevation change for your shoe to get caught in, and then you stumble and fall, and then you hurt yourself. Also, pay attention to limbs, leaves, gravel, or other debris on sidewalk, because this is also hazardous, as well as ice and snow. I'm an account executive for the northeastern area, very cold. I'm sure New Jersey experiences the same weather condition, and there's a lot of slips and fall injuries that happen outside the church on the sidewalk because there were icy conditions and they were not cleared, they were not sanded, they were not salted, and the church receives the claims. And of course, if you don't have proof that it was because of your negligence, we're going to have to go into a litigation and pay if it is the church's fault. Another area of responsibility for the safety officer is life safety. And we talk about life safety, we talk about life preserving. So when we talk about an emergency, and let's say there is a situation where you would have to evacuate, you will have to, as a safety officer, you will have to make sure that the exit doors are unlocked, that there is a door swing, that the door hardware is working properly, that you have proper illuminated exit signage, like right there. You make sure that you have an egress map to guide everyone safely out. Make sure aisles are clear. And of course, you have to make sure you have proper lighting. So these are all duties of the safety officer. But if you think about it, we can use this in our personal life, knowing our surroundings, knowing what we should do in case of an emergency. Imagine you have an emergency on your hand, and as a church leader, people will look up to you for a solution. And imagine you having gone through the training and knowing exactly what to do and telling them, here's what we're going to do. We're going to be calm and follow these steps, rather than not knowing and everyone panicking, trying to come up with a solution, running into each other. So it's very important to have a plan in place, knowing what to do. Areas of hazard can be found in mother's room as well. Make sure that outlets that are not in use are capped. Children can stick items in there, their fingers. Outlets that are closer than 6 feet to a water source, like the sink, must have a fault circuit interrupted, a ground fault circuit interrupter, which is known as the GFCI protection. The changing table, make sure that you practice sound practices when you are changing diapers on children, one hand on the child while you operate whatever diaper bag you have. Make sure that the children are always attended, that there are no chemicals in the room and no small object that could be ingested by the children. So you have to be diligent and look at everything, and you will learn all these things from the training center. It's all into one nicely packed training that you can do either in 2 or 3 hours, or you can take breaks and do it at your own pace. Areas of concern also in the baptismal tank. One of the most dangerous aspects about a baptismal tank is the presence of electrical apparatus. So make sure that none of that are present in the reach of the baptistry. If electrical lighting is close by, it needs to be moved. Make sure there's a railing, there's very slippery area. Make sure there's an overflow drain for the baptistry and a heater shut off. And like I said, all of this in the training center. Mechanical room, also an area of hazard. Make sure the doors are locked. Sometimes children can get into mischief and find their way, and they could end up in a mechanical room. And you can imagine the danger that can be for them and how they can be injured in there. So make sure the doors stay locked, and also provide supervision for wandering children around the property. Emergency planning. We have Safety Sabbath next Sabbath. We will be talking about emergency planning and fire drills. And whoever signed up for the Safety Sabbath program, we have sent them packages of information. I believe they are also available right now in the form of PDF files. So if you haven't signed up yet, you need resources, let us know, and we will give you resources. We also have resources on active shooter, fire dangers, missing child, earthquake drills, and tornado drills. Very important to know what to do in all of these situations. Again, all of this is found in the Risk Training Center. Many buildings have surveillance cameras on property. If not, it is recommended that you have them installed at your facilities, and take steps to have the 24/7 video monitoring. There are third parties, companies that will do that for you, and they will alert you if you have an intruder or a suspicious activity going on. And if additional security is required for your property, consider electric gates that can be accessed by authorized personnel only. Consider installing time switches on your lights in the yard and outdoor areas, and make sure vacant buildings stay locked, because vacant buildings are very attractive for desperate people, and then can lead to vagrancy. You can find them living in there. So if you have a vacant building, make sure you tour it at least once a month. Make sure it's locked, or even more often if you can. More on security, have plans to maintain access control, keep doors and windows secured when the building is vacant, and limit points of access. Not every door should be opened. Of course, exit doors should be open, but not all areas should be available to everyone at the same time. It's not needed. So these are items that the safety officer should be able to manage. A lot of the churches, my church has a greeter both indoor and outdoor. In the parking lot, establish a greeter or hospitality team. Orient and train. When you train them, you let them know what to look for. You let them know areas of interest, and they will be able to guide the flow of people. They will be able to observe if there's anything going on, and they will alert you firsthand. So it's very important to have eyes on the property at all times. And also establish someone to patrol the halls, classrooms, and restroom on a random basis. Because again, children can get into mischief, and we are not going to do a deep dive on child protection today. We can do that at another time. But it's important to monitor how many children go into the bathroom, how long they stay there. If you see them running, make sure that they don't do that, and that they stay where they're supposed to do. And this will be done via proper supervision. But somebody who will patrol the halls will be able to pick up on something that is not supposed to be happening and alert you as a safety officer immediately. Activities and transportation. A lot of our ministries are focused on and geared for children. So of course, a lot of our activities are going to be on outings with these children. So what do we need to do this in a safe way? You have to have parental consent and medical release. And why is that important? Parental consent will let the parents know where the children are going, what's going to be done, and also they will give their permission for that. You will also have their information, and they will give you a medical release form giving you permission to take that child to get treatment in case they get injured. So it's very important to have parental consent and medical release form. You must have adequate qualified supervision. You must have screened volunteers. So according to the North American Division, the working policy, everyone under the age of 18 working with children must be screened. And also anyone who sits in a position of leadership in the church must also be screened. We get this question a lot. Why should I be screened? I've been with the church for 15 years. Everyone can vouch for me. This is mandatory. It is very important that we allow for the screening to happen to make sure that we have the right people supervising our children. It's very important. And then safe transportation. We're going to talk about ways to transport the children in a safe way. For the activities and transportation, we also have a form on our website, and it can be used before the trip, during the trip, and after the trip. So it's very important to use this form because you will be able to identify areas of concern that you need to be on the lookout for. So this is available on our website as well for you to use for your activities and transportation. I talked earlier about the permission slips and consent for treatment, the three specific purposes: consent to participate, emergency medical treatment authorization, and contact information. And these are bullet points on what should be done when you use these forms. Be specific to the activities. Let the parents or guardian know exactly what's going to be done, where the children are going to be, when they're going to come back. All these details need to be provided to the guardians or parents. Make sure that the permission slips are signed by the parent or the guardian of the child, and have copies of these with the director and the drivers. And we're going to talk about transportation. As you can see here, we are still talking about the 15-passenger vans. And why is that? It has been proven that these are very dangerous vehicles to use to transport our church members, our children, for any activities. And why is that? First, the 15-passenger vans, because of the way they are configured, when you load them up with people and you also have luggage, a balance is created so that where you're in a steep curve, that vehicle will tip. And you can imagine the catastrophe that can happen when you have 15 passengers in there and you have a vehicle that rolled over on the road, maybe others crashed into it. Imagine this horrific scenario, the loss of life, the injuries that can stem from it. And we have had as an initiative to remove the 15-passenger vans from our churches. And a lot of good work has been done. A lot of these vehicles are gone. Churches have sold them. They have gotten alternative vehicles that are safer to use, and we are safer. But still, we are talking about them because they are a cheaper alternative to rent, borrow, even buy. So they're still out there. And next year, we have the Camporee in Gillette, Wyoming, right? I don't know how many will be driving, but you probably will be forced to drive from the airport to Wyoming. I'm not sure how the airport air situation is close to the Camporee, but you're going to be forced to rent a van. Or so according to the North American Division, I'm going to read it out loud. In the interest of safety, denominational organizations shall not purchase, lease, rent, or use 15-passenger vans for sponsored activities under any circumstances. Alternative to 15-passenger vans include minivans and SUVs, mini school buses, 15-passenger buses with dual rear wheels. And then we get these questions a lot. Well, my van has only 12 seats. I removed 3. It's not a 15-passenger van anymore. It's safe. No, it's not. Why is that? I have 3 bullet points there. What will make a 15-passenger van a 15-passenger van? If it can be configured as a 15-passenger van, then it is a 15-passenger van. If it has a wheelbase of 135 inches and an overall length of 225 inches, then it most definitely is a 15-passenger van. So this is how we were able to identify the 15-passenger vans in our fleet. By using the VIN numbers, when you put that VIN number in, it gives you all the specs. So they highlighted every church that had these 15-passenger vans, and we sent communication to the conference asking for these to be removed. So if it has this specification, if you remove 3 seats, it's still a 15-passenger van. So we don't want you to see those being used.
A question that comes to me is that, they come to me, they want to purchase, I say, no, you cannot do that. It's prohibited in the United States, and you cannot purchase that. But then they decided to buy it personal to pick up members around. And I tell them that also we are liable, even though they purchase the van by themselves, personal van is still a risk for the church.
Does New Jersey Conference allow volunteers to use their own vehicles?
It shouldn't be, but it's always, that's why I want you to talk to them.
Because this, I have conferences that allow their volunteers under strict conditions to use their own vehicles, provided that they have proper insurance, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I have a lot of conferences that do not allow churches to use their own vehicles. And why is that? Because the conferences do not know if these vehicles are suitable, if they are properly serviced, if they are in good working condition. You don't know if that is a good vehicle, if it can break down. When you have a church vehicle, well, you have a maintenance spreadsheet that you can, an inspection worksheet that you can use to make sure that that vehicle is in working condition and is insured through the church's policy, which has much higher limits. So we can talk about this part, managing drivers. When you have drivers, volunteer drivers, you have to make sure that they have a good driving record and they have no at-fault accidents on their record, and less than 2 citations in the past 3 years, must be 21 or older, and a reputation for safe driving habits and proper licensing and registration, of course. Adequate insurance if driving their own vehicle. That's why I asked if New Jersey Conference allows their volunteers to.
Not in our policy, but sometimes they do it by themselves.
Right, which brings us to what I said earlier. You represent something much larger than yourself. I know you're trying to save money, but when you allow a church member to use their van, a 15-passenger van at that, to transport members and ends up in an accident, their own insurance will respond first. I'm not sure what kind of limits they have. They could have the minimum general liability limits in place. And once their limits are exhausted, even though it was the church's decision without the conference's permission, the conference will end up having to pay for that difference. And if you have 15 passengers and that van tips over, you can imagine the catastrophic loss that can bring towards the conference. So remember, we represent something much larger than ourselves, not just the church. We go all the way to the conference and to the union. Everything we do at the church level affects the conference. Everything, all the losses at one church will affect the entire conference. All churches will suffer an increase. So we all have to be in agreement that we are in this together. We have to know the dangers. We have to know what to do. We cannot jeopardize by not knowing what to do because we didn't have that training done. We have to know what to do. Going next to drivers, continuing Plan to manage fatigue. Make sure the drivers are rested. Have an adequate number of drivers so that could alternate every 2 hours, rotate them. And let's talk a little bit about managing distractions. And this also is beneficial in, not in a church setting, but in our personal life. And you can see there I have distractions, cell phones, eating and drinking, noise and chaos and loud music, grooming, and outside attraction. What do you think is the number one distraction while driving? Everybody knows. Cell phones. All right. I'm going to give you some statistics now. It has been proven that the average amount of time that we use at our cell phone while driving is 5 seconds. Average. Some do less, some do more. 5 seconds. Think about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means if you're driving at 55 miles per hour and you look at your cell phone for 5 seconds, you have driven the length of a stadium blindfolded. Think about that. Blindfolded. So plan to minimize, avoid that. A lot of our cars now have Apple Play. Everything goes, you just tell Siri to text. She might tell you something different, but she can text for you. Hey Siri, right? But it will minimize the risk. In my personal car, what I did, I bought a very short charging cord, this long. My husband hates it, but you cannot bring the phone closer to your face, so I won't use it. I'll use the CarPlay. He hates it. I love it. Trying for him to love it. Maybe I'll get one for his van. I don't think it's going to happen, but yeah, guilty as charged. Cell phones. Vehicle inspection. The safety officer has this form available via Adventist Risk Management on our website. You can use this to make sure that your vehicle is in good driving condition, and by following all the items on this form, you will be able to make sure that you have covered all your bases and you have done everything you need to do in order to keep that vehicle well maintained. And you see here, maintain a copy of all relevant documents. If that vehicle goes in for service, keep those for record. Conduct a pre- and post-trip inspection. Very important. We have come to incidents and claims. Whenever you have an incident happening, what do you need to do? You got to visit the scene, interview witness and record names and contacts, check for causes resulting from dangerous practices or disobedience, poor housekeeping, and improper apparel. But what I want to stress here is whenever you have a loss, please file a claim immediately. Do not wait 3, 4, 6 months to report a water leak. Because when you do that, then you allow for your loss to become much larger than just the water damage. You will allow bacteria to grow, mold, and it can end up denying your claim or becoming more costly, a more lengthy process. So file a claim immediately, get that set up, and then we will be able to send an adjuster over, and then we will get that going. But it's very important that you protect your property from further loss. You have a hole in the ceiling, put tarp on immediately, get a claim going. Yeah, let's get the adjuster on scene, we'll expedite it. The sooner you put in the claim, the sooner we can resolve this. So please do not wait. We have claims that come in of over 6 months. No outside carrier will touch that claim, a water damage claim, if you have not reported it in a timely manner. So please file those claims immediately. These are things that you should not do when you have a claim. Attempt to place the blame on an individual. That's not your job. Gather all the facts, witness names and contacts, give that over to us, we'll take over. Assuming there is just one cause for an accident, you will assume that, well, this pipe burst because of this and that, and once the adjuster comes and inspects it, they might find another reason for that. So do not assume anything. Determine any causes without investigation. Attempting to take the place of the administration in corrective action, and release information to any authorized party, especially when you have a general liability claim. If you have a sexual misconduct claim on your hands, or harassment, or anything that is of a sensitive nature, please keep it confidential. Do not You do not need to share it with anyone who does not need to have that information. It's very important to protect parties from any distribution of information that could be detrimental. We're going to talk a little bit about preventing fraud and embezzlement and financial controls. And the internal controls are the processes that an organization has in place to detect and prevent fraud. And for fraud to happen, you have to have 3 items present. You have to have pressure or motivation, rationalization, and opportunity. We want to minimize opportunity for fraud to happen. So you have to have a thorough review of your bank statement. You have to safeguard checks. I have to tell you about a claim that I received not too long ago. One conference have discovered that one of their checkbook has been stolen and somebody was cashing small amounts and they were not able to detect it until 1 year later, right? So you can imagine they went to their bank and it was very difficult to deal with that situation. And very important to keep your checks locked and secured. Be aware of new bank accounts and investigate questionable transaction and conduct financial audits. Very important to have those done in a timely fashion. Red flags, you can see here some highlights that could be part of the fraud. I'm not saying that all of these, each individual one, if you have a behavior changes or never take a vacation, that's a red flag. That's not. But all of these together might be an indication that something is not as it's supposed to be, or it needs some sort of review. So keep in mind, these are red flags that combined can give you an indication of what's going on. And in case of a suspected loss, you have to maintain confidentiality, very important. Remove those individuals in question immediately and report promptly according to the North American Division working policy. It says immediately report incidents to both the conference treasurer and the local police department. So you have to make those, both the conference and police department, if you have fraud on your hands. And this brings me to the second part of the presentation where we do, we go into some details of what is covered and what is not covered by the policy on the property and the general liability part. And this will be very brief because our policy is issued to the New Jersey Conference, and you can imagine it has hundreds of pages. So I will go by the questions that we get the most, right? So first, let's talk about church signs. Which one of these church signs would you say will be covered by the policy? So you have standing independently on the ground, and you have one attached to the building and one that's affixed to the building. Okay, all of them? Any others? Okay. So when we talk about the building, then we have the physical building, right? If you lift it up, everything that stays attached to it, if you tip it over, shake it, everything that stays attached doesn't fall out is building. You have carpets, you have attached signs, you have cabinets, fixtures, that is going to be building. Everything that falls out is going to be contents, right? A church sign that is not attached to the building is not going to be covered. We do have coverage for that, but it's limited to $15,000 and only 5 causes of loss. Our policy has an open peril unless excluded. For church signs, especially if you have an electronic church sign, that's going to be way over $30,000, something like that. It's not going to be covered unless the cause of loss is fire, explosion, lightning, riot or civil commotion, or aircraft. So as you can see, you have very low limits, and also the causes of loss are specified. If you have a drunk driver that drives into your church sign and manages to drive off, right? You cannot find them. You're going to have to use your property policy to replace your church sign. Will you find coverage? You won't. But if this is damage because of a fire, a lightning, or an aircraft crashes into it, riot or commotion or explosion, then yes, it will be covered. But $15,000, will that cover it? If you have a tall sign with electronic panels, it won't. So that means if you do have a sign, you have to schedule it on the policy at its full value. In that case, it will be covered for all causes of loss. If somebody drives into it, it will be covered, right? But if you do not schedule it, if you do not put it on your statement of value, you will have only $15,000 for those 5 causes of loss that I mentioned. If the sign is attached to the church, so if you take the building, you shake it, and it's still there, then that's building. Like carpet is also building, right? Lights attached, everything attached is building. And the one underneath, that's also going to be covered because it's affixed to the building. So the ones that are standing independently on the ground, outdoor property, need to be scheduled. Same thing goes for fences. If they are attached, are they covered? Yes. If they are attached to your building, they are covered. But if they are not, if they are just around the perimeter, will they be covered? No. But they will be covered for those 5 causes of loss that I mentioned. Fire, explosion, riot, commotion, aircraft. Remember that? $15,000. Antenna, same thing. Same limits, same causes of loss. Which one will be covered? Right there. The one on the right, correct. If it's attached to your building, then it's part of the building. If it's stuck to your building, part of the building. So please remember that. Shake it, put it upside down. If nothing falls out. Animals, are they covered? No, they're not. No, they are not. When are animals covered? Animals will be covered if, wait a second, this is property. This is contents, right? It cannot be just a building. If the animals are owned by others, boarded by you, that you have a legal liability obligation for, then they will be covered, right? Because you're legally liable. If you are boarding those animals, if you have those animals to use on camp, if you lease saddled animals, horses for camps, right, then they will be covered on the general liability policy. But you also have to let us know how many horses do you have, because there's specific liability that's attached to each animal. So they will be covered, but unless for mortality, we do not cover mortality. So if they die, that's not going to be covered. Paved surfaces, they are excluded. But if you do have a paved area like the one over there that you want to protect with insurance, you have to let us know. Tell us the value, put it on the policy. Otherwise, not covered. Paved areas. And then fire extinguisher recharge, we will pay the actual cost to recharge fire extinguisher or fixed pipe fire extinguisher systems after being used to fight a fire. So if you have a fire at your building, we will be able to not only pay for the building, but also to replenish the fire extinguisher. Also locks. If you suffer a break-in, right? If you have a break-in and your locks got damaged and they stole property or damaged property, we will replace that. And on top of that, we will pay for up to $25,000 to replace your locks. So if you have smart locks that are very expensive, just know you have that benefit. You have to report that as a loss and we will replace it. Unoccupied versus vacant, we have some loss conditions there. So I'm going to read from the policy because it's policy language, but I will explain it. If the building where the loss or damage occurred, so we say we have a building and you had a loss there, has been vacant for more than 60 consecutive days, we will not pay for the following losses: vandalism, sprinkler leakage, unless you have protected the system against freezing, building glass breakage, water damage, theft, or attempted attempted theft. So if that building was empty for 60 days consecutively, before that loss, you will not be reimbursed if your building gets vandalized, if there's an attempted theft, if there's water damage, or glass breakage. So know that vacant buildings have less protection. You have to make sure that they stay locked and secure.
One question.
Go ahead.
What do you mean with vacant? If you use once a month as Sabbath school classroom?
Consecutive 60 days. So if you have 60 days that have passed in between before the loss, and that was completely vacant, then you will not be covered. But like you said, right. So during yes, that'll be okay. During COVID, we had to suspend that condition because we were all remote. So a lot of us were vacant for more than 60 days, so we had to suspend that. And then, but now it's back. Now we are going to look at the general liability side, what is not covered, right? So as you can see here, a lot of fun stuff on the screen, right? Is it covered? No, it's not. We have rock climbing, rope course, rappelling, trapeze, zip line, ice climbing, bouldering, climbing wall, swings, cargo net, slack line. All of these need to be scheduled on your policy. So if you are doing these activities on your own, that means if you are going to have your own equipment, harnesses, and teach these activities and find your own place in the wild where you're going to climb a rock, a boulder, what have you, then you need coverage. But if you go to a third party that does this for you, then the liability lies with them. But if you do this on your own and you supply all the equipment and the training, then you are not covered. You have to add that, and it will be a premium. Another activity that's not covered is gymnastics, okay? So this needs to be scheduled. The conference will have to fill out a form and give us the name of the academy or the church that is going to have a gymnastics league, and proper coverage needs to be placed, and a premium will be charged. So all gymnastics activities and equipment such as mini tramps, springboards, teeter boards, trampolines, Reuter boards, and any other rebounding devices. All of these are gymnastics apparatus. They are excluded by the general liability, and they have to be added by endorsement. So please know that unless scheduled, it will not be covered. Bouncy houses, are they covered? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Unfortunately, they are, because our policy is all risk unless excluded. Bouncy houses are not excluded, thus making them a activity that is covered. Should it be done? With proper supervision. Make sure you rent this from a reputable company that maintains them properly, calibrates them properly. Make sure you have supervision, and this can be done in a safe way. So transfer the liability. Don't improvise, make your own device, jumping or whatever. Go to a third party. Let them carry that liability with them. Go ahead, sir.
Right. So I'm just wanting to clear. So if it's rented, we're covered. If you should purchase one,
and then you're the owner and you're maintaining it, that's your liability. And
then it's not covered.
well, it is covered, but we would rather transfer that liability, you understand? Because when you transfer it to them, they are liable for everything. But of course, when you have an activity at your church, you can minimize the church's liability by having the participants sign waiver liability forms. But those do not always hold in court if it's proven that you have demonstrated gross negligence in maintaining the area, no supervision, then those are not going to hold. So you can use the waiver liability forms to protect the church and tell them that if you do this, you're on your own, but for that you have to make sure that you watch them, that no horse playing between the kids. You know how it can get, like everybody's flying in that thing. Don't lose a key in there or anything, yeah. So they are covered, but I encourage proper risk management techniques like transferring the risk to a third party and providing proper supervision using liability waiver forms and making sure this is done in a safe way. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, quick question. Something that's a bit similar to that. Fenced in trampolines.
Fenced and trampolines?
Yeah, like you have this fenced around area, there's a trampoline, and kids use that where you
I think we will go back to scheduled activities. Where was that? Here. Oh, you mean the trampoline?
Yes, it was one back. Yeah, it's not quiet.
Well, this is on the gymnastics side. This is not.
It's like a tranquility they have.
So the trampoline is more on the gymnastics side of the liability. So it's included with the gymnastics apparatus because I listed it. So I'm going to read from the policy. Gymnastics equipment, bodily injury, property damage, personal injury, or advertising injury arising out of the use of the following equipment is excluded unless a premium is charged and shown on the schedule. And it lists mini tramps, springboards, teeter boards, trampolines, roller boards, and other rebounding devices. So they are not covered unless you buy that coverage for that activity. And this brings me to health fairs. Very exciting. Health screening events, we get a lot of them, and they are very beneficial. They are a good ministry. They provide medical advice and care to people who cannot afford it otherwise, but it's very, very important that we do this in a safe way. Is this covered by the general liability policy? Go ahead. To what degree? Let's talk about it. Okay, so yes, it is covered, but to the following degree. It can be covered if your health fair is about providing monitoring like weight checks, blood pressure checks, diabetes check, providing brochures and literature, distributing that, then yes, that's considered incidental general liability. It will be covered. But once we are providing medical services that are invasive, like a teeth cleaning, a root canal, or a minor procedure, no matter how small it is, as soon as you open tissue and expose somebody, you're going towards medical malpractice. So you have to purchase special coverage for that. Yes, sir? I'm sorry?
Glucose test.
Glucose test. If it's just a prick in the finger, then yes. Go ahead.
Just like a blood drive also, right?
I'm sorry?
Blood drive. That would include blood drive is not allowed?
I will have to talk to my producers for the blood drive specifically, but if it has to do with transfusions, inserting needles, contamination, then this is not what the general liability is designed for. So you have to buy the medical professional liability. And once you do that, you purchase the coverage, and then you give us how many doctors, nurses you have, how many volunteers you expect, how many people you expect to visit. And after it's done, you make an audit and give us the exact numbers, and you either get premium back or pay more based on what you had. So if you have something that's invasive, and even counseling, diagnosing is also considered medical. So you cannot have anyone diagnosing somebody with even obesity, because this is not what the general liability policy is for, right? So for that, you need medical professional liability purchased for that event specifically. So keep in mind.
So when you talk about counseling, is pastor counseling under there?
Pastor counseling, you said? Well, we have an endorsement on our policy regarding pastor counseling, as long as there's no diagnosing involved, where I can give you a medical, I give you a diagnosis that's backed by, medical expertise, and I make you believe that you're supposed to do this or that, and then you're on a path of doing a wrong treatment, and you can sue everybody because you received, the wrong information, and we do not have coverage for that unless you purchase it, right? So when you buy medical professional liability insurance for this event, you have higher limits. You have $10 million for this, and then it's for dental, vision, comprehensive primary care services like diagnosis. And make sure if you plan a health event, let us know 2 months in advance so we can work together and tailor that for your specific activity so that you get the right coverage put in place. And risk control recommendation for your health fairs, vet the volunteers providing medical services. They should only treat in their area of expertise and have current licenses to practice these procedures. So don't have anyone just offering to, help out just because they have an idea. Go ahead.
Yeah, coming back with the blood drive, we usually go and talk with the third party like Vitaland, Red Cross, and everything. They do all the blood just like that.
Then the liability is theirs.
Oh, there,
Right.
Okay.
So whenever you partner with a third party to do that on your behalf, then they have all the proper licensing, they have all the insurance that needs to be in place. But when you're doing it, when you find a couple of doctors in your congregation and nurses, and this is what we're going to do, and we are headlining this whole show, you have to have coverage, medical professional liability. Go ahead.
What can you tell about the international camporee that's next year?
What about that?
Going over there. What can you say about that? What can you say about that?
About the
So going over there, like
Just a second for the stream live, so we need to use the mic when someone is talking because there is a silence.
Oh, I see.
My question is regarding the international camporee next year. What can you tell, like transportation?
This year, the one that's in Jamaica?
No, the one that's gonna be in Gillette, Wyoming
That's next year, yes. What about it?
What can you say about because directors are going over there. Some of them flying, some of them are driving buses. What can you say about that?
Well, I can talk to you about risk management and products that we put in place. We will have a travel policy in place for that. For the ones traveling via US, they will use their own medical insurance if they get injured. But we have not issued any products out just now, but we are very close to putting it out there and getting it rolled out for the camporee. But at this point, we do not have them out yet, any products that we have for the camporee. If you have purchased already your ticket, if you're planning to go, then stay in touch with the conference and we will have either a Pathfinder leadership training for them or for you, and we will provide information there. But as of now, I don't have any products available yet. But it won't be too different from the last time when we had the camporee in 2019, was it? Yeah, Oshkosh. Yes, sir.
I want to know if tents are covered, tents that you might purchase for baptism or
Tanks?
yeah, tents.
Yes, they are
By
covered.
the church.
Yes, they're not excluded. They are part of the church. Any more questions? Go ahead, sir.
On the health fair, does it make a difference if you're doing it on your premises versus outside of your premises? Is
No.
that, no? Okay.
It's an activity that is connected to your church, so you could be doing in your
On
yard
the street?
or at a park. It's
Okay,
still going to be
okay.
connected to your church.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead.
Just for confirmation, for the property coverage, air conditioning units are covered?
Yes, under equipment.
Okay, thank
And those are going to be covered under equipment breakdown, so they are covered. They are subject to deductible, of course. So I think the deductible for New Jersey is $1,500. So yes, air conditioners are covered. And then to somebody who had a question about the blood drive, when you do that with a third party, like American Red Cross, make sure when you partner with them to do the blood drive, make sure that you request them to give you a certificate of general liability to name you, your church, and your conference as additionally insured. Because when you do an activity, they want you to do the same. So it's fair for you to request a certificate that makes sure that you are not shouldering none of that liability that is being generated by that activity. Yes.
If we have a damage in our church, it's already paid by the church. Can risk management reimburse us the money?
Are you saying that if you have had a damage and
Yeah.
you
Equipment,
went ahead and
equipment.
fixed it, right? As long as you kept records, pictures, and receipts of what you purchased and what you fixed, then you can put in a claim and we'll look at it. I will have to leave this to my claims department to adjudicate a case, but as long as you have some paper trail and evidence that you have suffered that loss, a picture.
Okay, but it still continue. The problem still continue.
Okay.
Can we still do that?
So is this an air conditioning you said?
No, it was a chimney and the boiler.
Okay. What happened? Do you know what happened to the chimney?
We don't know what happened.
What was
because,
wrong with it? What was malfunctioning?
It was release carbon monoxide. And then they said they have to
Okay.
fix it right away.
Okay. You have to put in a claim, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, put in a
Thank
claim,
you.
and then they will let you know, because we are different departments. I can guide you to where you need to be and give you resources, but I cannot adjudicate it for you because I don't have their expertise. So put in a claim and we'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
All right? And then again, if you have receipts, pictures, always take pictures of everything, every angle, up, down, under. Make sure you are fully covered so that you can provide that information. And these are the numbers that you can use to file a claim. You can also contact your conference, and they will file it on your behalf. And I will be able to share the slides of what I presented today with you so that you will be able to have them for reference. And like I said earlier, we are in this together. Our ministry is to protect your ministry, and we have resources, tools, and highly trained professionals that can help you with any questions that you may have. And of course, your first point of contact is your conference, and then your account executive, Mr. Rocio Roberts, who will be able to take your questions. Go ahead.
I just want to go back with the van. There's
The 15-passenger van?
Yeah, passenger van. I have this two specific questions with regard. Is the 15-passenger van limits to the double-wheeled vans? Because if we're talking about with the wheelbase, there is the same brand, Ford. They changed their wheelbase.
Do they have dual wheels
No,
in the
it's
back?
not. It's not dual wheels. It says on our policy it should be more than 135 feet, right? Right now, the Ford passenger van they have this new one, 148. So it's already above the 135 limit. And then the other one is the overall length. It says on the policy it's a 225, right? Now the Ford released 235 overall length. So it means to say this 15-passenger van, it's already okay according to the policy. But it is a two-wheel
Right,
wheelbase. Yeah.
right. So what we are targeting here are the older 15-passenger vans, the ones that date from 2005 and all the way to 2015. Those were very, very dangerous. So now they are modifying their concept. They are doing things differently. But our initiative is to remove all of these vehicles, especially the ones in this time frame that was produced in that time. But I know they are changing some of their specifications on the vehicles. We have not done any research on the newer models. We have had an expert come in and give us expert terms. We had a presentation at the of our risk management conference on more details about the specs of auto vehicles and the dangers. So they were able to give us scientific reasons as to why they were dangerous. But we do know that, like you said, Ford are coming with newer, better models that could prove to be safe. But we, as of now, we choose to eliminate all 15-passenger vans. But of course, if you buy a brand new model and it shows that it has different specification or even the dual wheel in the back, then that can help you use a safer vehicle that maybe will not tip, but we have not researched the new ones yet. But we know that they are better. They are a little safer, but we don't know to what extent.
So we can rest assured to have an answer to that, so that it will not be,
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
I mean, you mean to say the NJ risk will assure us that there will be an answer to this question, since this falls to right specs of our New Jersey policy, with the wheelbase and overall length. So it's okay, but the only thing that limit this one is only a 15.
The configuration.
Yeah, the configuration itself.
So the problem is, when we talk about 15-passenger van, if we have any of these specific, can be configured as a 15-passenger van, has a wheelbase of a 136 and an overall length of 224, then yes, it is. And since it does have the configuration, but like I said, they are making newer, better models, but until we vet them and we are able to do research and deem them as safer for our churches, then we are going to continue to push the 15-passenger van initiative to remove them from our churches. And if there are any more questions, I want to let you know that after lunch, we will be available, both myself and my colleague, for 45 minutes for a more in-depth conversation. If you have questions or you need any sort of guidance, we will be there, so feel free to come to us and we'll talk. And that brings me to the end of my presentation.
Hello. We would like to thank you for coming here. I know you have drive how many hours from here?
3.5.
This is from the conference to thank you for coming over and be part of our training or meeting. So I hope you enjoy these gifts.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you're filled with information. Now at this part, I'm gonna give giveaways. All right.
That's a lot of stuff.
So I have here 3 books from Mark Finley, the Daniel and Revelation. So if you don't want it,
and also this.
Oh, and also this. All right. If you don't want it, you can give it to someone in your church. All right. So this is called Understanding Daniel and Revelation by Mark Finley. Okay? So let's see. First one goes to, it's Brother Sonny Balicanta. All right, the next one, oops, it escaped me. The next one goes to Disrose. Oh, okay. There you go. There you go. The next one is, we'll see. I'm going to close. Aaron Trinidad. Thank you, Pastor. And from the risk management, we will, all right, we'll see. All right. We have here Frank Joseph. Thank you. Okay. And one more thing. Over here. Ili Tika. Oh, you're up my front. All right. One question. You have to give me the first answer. When is the deadline for your Remittance Sister Conference? Oh, everybody answers it. Okay, you have to raise your hand first, and then I will call on you. Another one. Is it how many number of years that you're going to get it audited? 2 years. Yes? 2. All right. Can you please pass this on? This is for ladies' devotional. All right. Another one. Let's see if you got this. Okay. All right. Give me one report that you need to present to the board as a treasurer. Yes. Yes, financial summary. Thank you very much. So that concludes our giving of gifts. Now, let me give you some more announcements. So we provided lunch after this. In the afternoon, I know some of you are not staying because it wasn't in the flyer, it was only 12:30, but if you're staying, we will have jewel support here, especially to those who are new. If you have been there in the treasury for so long, we probably don't need it that much, but if you have a personalized situation base to base, you can always contact Rachel and have it scheduled. And if you cannot come here in the afternoon, stay here with us in the afternoon, you can have it scheduled also for Rachel. Another announcements, the ARM at 1:30 after lunch, they will be available for question and answers upstairs. And then we have forms from the one that was presented here. You can go out to this, and there are forms. So there are also extra of your sunset calendar. You can take it over here. Upstairs, we have the books to be given out. It's free. We also have the magazines like this one, Centinela, and any other resources. It's upstairs. So we will pray first before we go to lunch. And all the slides that are here, and even this session, is also recorded and is available in our website. All right? Probably after lunch. That's how quick Pilco is. All right. We will have Pastor Etienne pray for us and pray for the lunch. And we have to exit in this part and go to the other room and to line up for our lunch.
Thank you. Just additional announcement. There is a table in front in the lobby. We have some newsletters, New Jersey newsletters, family newsletters, stewardship newsletters, and health newsletters. So they're in French, Spanish, and English. One page. So we have some for you. You can take them. And also they are on the website. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to see this new day. And we thank you, Lord, for the gift of life. We thank you for the gift of salvation. Thank you for this beautiful training. Bless all of the leaders who are here today for the training. Bless the presenters. Lord, now we're going to partake the food. We ask you to give us a good appetite, and we can enjoy the food, and to return after lunch to more training. Hear our prayer. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Bon appétit.
Hold on. Sorry. Hold on. I still have 2 things to give away if you want to stay for that.